Hi, it's time to get up close and personal with this piece of kit here, the bass drum pedal. They do vary a lot from manufacturer to manufacturer, from pricing point to pricing point, but even the most basic pedal should have these next three adjustments. A tension adjustment, a beta angle adjustment, and a beta height adjustment. Let's go through those three things in more detail. The tension adjustment here through this spring can be wound off or on, depending which direction you turn this knurled nut in at the bottom, depending on whether you like it loose or perhaps a little tighter, a little springier. I like to set my pedal up so that it will hold the dead weight of my foot. Let's attach it to something and I'll show you what I mean. I've got this Roland electric kick pad here. We'll use that because it's convenient. Line this up and I'll push the tongue of the kick pad into the jaws here of the clip. I line up the pedal left to right, so it's going to hit the centre left to right. Not too worried about height yet, and I push it to make sure that it's sitting square. As with a lot of pedals, the wing nut here puts tension on the jaws of the clamp, and that will hold the pedal quite securely to the bass drum post. If you're using an acoustic drum, you might have a metal rim drum, in which case you'll probably need to use a rubber spacer to help the pedal grip. If you're using a wooden rim, you can attach the pedal directly, but it might be a better idea to use a rubber protector so that the pedal doesn't chew into the wooden rim, which over time it will do. So, having lined up your pedal with the post or the drum that you're using, I'll get back to this idea of tension. Do we want the tension to be light or do we want the tension to be heavy? Well, assuming this was my foot, when I put the dead weight of my foot on the pedal, I want the pedal to be able to hold the dead weight of my foot up. The dead weight is when I'm neither pushing nor lifting. I've just got my foot on the pedal like you would have your foot on the ground. That's the dead weight of your foot. And I want the pedal to be off the beater. I don't want the thing to be so loose that the minute I put my foot on the plate, the beater goes through and hits the skin or the post in this case. You know, dead weight of my foot is taking it in, so I can't. That's my default position. That's no good. You've got to at least have enough tension on this to hold the dead weight of your foot so that when you rest your foot on the plate, it doesn't go to the head. It's a secondary nut above here, so when you're adjusting at the bottom, always leave this top nut loose, and when you get the adjustment you want, that's not bad. You can then tighten down the top nut as a lock nut so that the two nuts tightening against each other like that means they're a lot less likely to undo while you're playing, which can be annoying. If you're really worried about it, just get a pair of pliers and nip them up that little bit tighter. So we've got the tension where we want it. It's holding up the dead weight of our foot. Means we've got to push a little bit if we want to make a beat, but most importantly it means we get some rebound, because the way I look at it, this is just a big stick and this is just a big drum in effect, and the same principles of bounce and rebound apply to the bass drum beater as they do to any other drumstick application. I know some people like to dig in, as they call it, and I think there's a time and a place for that, but I don't see it as a default technique. I think as a default technique, you know, you need rebound on the bass drum just as much as you need it on the sticks. So if you don't rebound the bass drum pedal, you're going to take volume and tone out of the acoustic drum on the strike. If you're using a double pedal, you've now got the head muted with one beater as you're about to strike it with the second. It just doesn't make any sense at all, other than for a specialty accent stroke, to do that. As I said, you know, like sometimes when we hit a snare, we'll hit a snare dead stick. Sometimes we'll even hit a snare and hold it on. Sometimes we'll hit a tom and hold it on. Sometimes we'll make these specialty strokes. I see that as a specialty stroke on the bass drum. I see that as a default stroke on a bass drum, and any other drum being struck by a rebounding stick, or a beater in this case, yeah? So I'm happy with the tension there. Those other two adjustments I was discussing, beater angle, that's this one here. That's holding this lock here onto the cam. And if I undo that, you can see now that the beater can work quite independently of this mechanism here. That's a really important adjustment, this beater angle adjustment. If you're going to get your pedal happening, you are going to want to have this adjustment. And you're going to want to, again, figure that in to that whole equation of where does the beater need to be, so that when I put the dead weight of my foot on it, I've got this centimetre or two of travel left to get to the drum. That's the area of the spring I'm actually working when I'm playing the pedal. So that again seems all right. Lock that off. Don't go crazy with the tension on these things when you do them up. They're only cast metal, so if you go really silly tightening them up, you'll just strip the threads. So yeah, back off a little bit. And that last one, beater height. Now most people think, oh well, that's there so you can get the beater exactly in the middle of whatever it is you're hitting, whether it be the drum or the post. And you know, I guess to a degree that's a fair enough comment. But it actually affects the way the bass drum pedal feels a lot more than you think. So you try it, you lengthen the beater or shorten the beater on your pedal at home, and you'll see it changes the action of the pedal completely. So on an acoustic drum, it doesn't mind if you're a little bit off center, above or below. And on an electric drum, there's likewise there's a little bit of plus or minus there. So if you need to adjust your pedal, you think, no, I really want a longer stroke on that, well, you can adjust it so it's slightly higher than halfway. That's not a problem. I mean, obviously you don't want it up here, but you know, a slightly longer stroke is a different feel underfoot to if you go, no, I want a much shorter stroke, and you play down that end of the pedal, you know what I'm saying? So again, it's a bit like a drumstick. You know, when you hold a drumstick, there's a point of balance with it. And with the bass drum beater likewise, there's a point of balance. I'm lining this beater up at the moment. You notice there are two felt and two synthetic faces on this beater. I'm using one of the synthetic faces, and I'm using the synthetic face that is curved in that direction, so that when it hits this rubber beater, there's no sharp edges. It's hitting in a you know, the curve is contacting there. So I don't want to dig a hole into this by coming at it. Say if I was using this one, when that's hitting on that edge, it's going to put a lot more pressure on the rubber, I believe, than this one. Again, on an acoustic drum, these different heads will actually produce slightly different tone out of the acoustic drum. So that's their main purpose. But when you're using on a rubber pad, use the synthetic sides of your pedal if you've got that option. Okay, so your pedal height, I think that's a bit low now that I've done that. Muck around with it. I can feel it in my hand because I've set up the pedal so many times. Set up pedals so many times. I can feel under hand just as easily as underfoot how that pedal's going. It feels a little bit tight too at the moment, so I might back off this tension a little bit more. Just move the locking nuts down with it as well. Still a little bit low for me. I know it's pedantic, I'm only moving it very small increments, but again, it's like where you hold the stick, the point of balance, it's absolute. That feels much nicer. There's a much more fluid movement to that now. Still probably a bit tight. Nice. And does it work on its own? Of course it does. Always make sure when you finish mucking around that if you just pull the beater back and let it go, that the momentum will be enough to take it to the head on its own. Just the once is fine, maybe twice, but once at least. Don't have your pedal so tight that you're playing on a head that's here, you know. You've got to make sure that this wants to go to the playing surface, yeah? And you've got to make sure that when you've got your foot on it, it'll hold you up. Anyway, I think I've babbled on enough. You get the general idea. There are adjustments on your bass drum pedal. Mess with them, yeah? Use them. Make the pedal more efficient, make it feel better underfoot, make drumming more fun. Cheers.